going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Chalk Talk, the series where I walk you through real football concepts and apply them to our favorite video games. Today, we're going to be diving into diagnosing coverages pre-snap, and this is one of the most valuable tools that you could have as a player, both in college football, in Madden, in your offline dynasties and franchise modes, as well as playing online. This is how you really take a leap in terms of being a good football player on the video games, right? Is being able to recognize and identify coverages pre-snap as well as post-snap, right? So today I'm going to be walking you through all of the base stock coverages. So you're going to be seeing stuff like cover 4, cover 3, cover 2, some man-to-man, a couple of quarters checks that are in the game, as well as talking about how to recognize blitzes and pressure before the snap, because I think that's one of the most useful things that you can know how to do. If you're able to recognize blitzes by pre-snap alignment or by quick post-snap movement, then you're able to take away the biggest strength of a blitz, which is the unexpected pressure. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. The first coverage that we're going to start with is quarters, and what I really love, this is not specifically an Auburn video. If you're new to the channel, just watching this video for the first time, I have an entire series where I am going through the 2013 Auburn offensive playbook and building my own custom playbook in college football based off of it. So definitely go ahead and check out that video after this if you're interested in that. But one thing I love about Malzahn's playbooks is that he has an entire section in the beginning of the playbook designated to coverage recognition. And it reminds me a lot of what I had in my college playbooks, right? We had something very, very similar, although I think that Malzahn's is even more in depth. That being said, the one playbook that I have kept was from when I was still playing offensive line, so I didn't care about the coverage recognition stuff. I didn't pay attention to that. When I was a tight end, we didn't have the same stuff in our playbooks. So it's a cool thing here, but I didn't really pay attention to it when I was in college. But we get a really nice diagram here of what quarters is going to look like. And this is where we're going to start by talking about kind of the procedure and what I like to refer to almost as the game within the game when we get lined up pre-snap. So the way that I like to read coverages is by first looking at the safeties, right? I want to see how many safeties there are lined up deep, and then 2, what is their alignment? So in this situation, we have 1 high safety, 2 high safety, and they are aligned right on the hashes, right? For a 2x2 middle of the field alignment on offense, they're aligned right on the hashes. Then, second, I like to look at the corners, right? And this is referring to the outside corners. And we need to first also discuss the technique of the corners. Right now, what they're playing is off technique, right? This is when you're aligned 8+ yards off the ball. Some coaches will call this free access technique. This is where, if you watch the cover 3 video, I talked about access throws. That's where that comes from. But here, they're playing off technique. They're far off the ball. Third, I want to find the strong apex defender. In this case, it's the Sam linebacker here. Although in a lot of situations, it's going to be the nickel, right? If you're coming out in 11 personnel and your opponent's personnel matching you in nickel personnel, it'll be that third corner, which is why one of the most important things is to know that nickel defender by heart when you get into a match, right? If you watch my Rice Dynasty, go ahead and check that out too. If you're interested in Dynasty content, I make scouting reports every single week. And one of the things I'm going to add to the scouting report for the defensive side is the number of the nickel defender, so you and I both can refer to that and recognize it when we look to read coverages, right? So this is a situation where you want to make sure you know who the apex defender is, you find him, and the last step before you snap the ball is you're going to read the weak safety. Hopefully my handwriting is coming through good enough to read. I think it is. Writing on a tablet is a bit difficult. But why do we pick the weak safety to read? Well, most coverage rotation that you're going to see is going to come from the weak safety. Think about if we're running cover 3 buzz. It'll look something like this. Same thing if we're running cover 1 robber, right? A lot of rotation happens away from the nickel. So that's why I like to read the backside safety. So in this case, our nickel is the Sam linebacker. So our read at the snap is going to be this safety here. So let's go ahead and hop into the game footage. Keep in mind the structure of this quarter shell as we get into it. Very, very similar look, right? Let's play our game here. How many high safeties do we have? We have 1, we have 2. What's our corner technique? It is off. It is off. Where is our strong apex? It's this guy, right? Even if you don't know the number, a key for you here is the alignment in the stance that they have in the game. Corners will align like this, where they're kind of hunched over and their hands are hanging by their knees, whereas linebackers, like this guy, are going to align with their hands on their thigh boards, like this, right? So that's one key to recognize. And if there is a corner as an apex defender compared to a linebacker, the corner is always going to be the strong apex. So that is our strong apex here. So what does that mean our read is? It means that our read is the safety here. Okay? So right here, we're looking at the structure. We see all the ingredients of a cover 4, right? This is kind of like, if you watch and listen to broadcasts, they refer to quarters as an umbrella, right? I don't love that terminology, but it is technically true here, right? You got the 4 DBs kind of backed off, right? And you can kind of see that umbrella, but I want you to think of it more as 2 high safeties, 2 off corners, right? We find our nickel, and now we're going to read the backside safety. So what will we expect? Well, if you watch the quarters video, check that out too, you would know that the safety is reading the release of number 2, all right? So what will we expect him to do? Well, we're going to expect him to kind of pitter-patter his feet right about here as he reads the release of 2 to determine if he's going vertical, right? So all that information, we have a very good hypothesis, or a pre-snap diagnosis, if you will, that this is going to be quarters coverage. So we snap the ball. What does the backside safety do? He's kind of pittering his feet, right? And he's sitting at that 15-ish yard depth, right? Now, he does step inside to maintain inside leverage, but we get a very good, clear diagnosis that this is in fact quarters. Now, all these plays that I'm running here are going to be just 4 verticals, right? All go special, if you will, right? I just want to give a very similar look every single time. So it'll be a bit hard, especially when we get to stuff like cover 3 and cover 1 post snap. It's not going to be clear, right? But this is just for simplicity's sake on the offensive side, because this video is not diving into how to attack these coverages. That's going to be future videos after this. Don't worry about it. We'll get to it. But quarters does look a little bit different, and some coverages look different based on the alignment of the offense, and quarters is one of them. So let's go ahead, play our game here. Play it with me, if you will. How many safeties do we got? We got 1, we got 2 high. Corner technique. We are off, we are off. Where is our strong apex? He is here now. Okay, so who is our read? Backside safety. Okay? And right, you guys have watched a quarters video. What is so special about running quarters against trips? The backside safety does not have any vertical responsibility for any wide receiver. So he is free to play that poach technique where he's going to come over and basically play middle field close safety. Okay? So we have our entire diagnosis. We think it's cover 4. We know we're in trips, and our backside read, we think we know what he's going to do. So as soon as we see his movement at the snap to confirm, we know we got quarters. Okay? So we snap the ball. He's moving over to the middle of the field. I already know. Quarters. Alright? So this gives me, and gives you, once you know how to do this, so much opportunity to, once you recognize a coverage pre-snap, you're going to be able to be so surgical and fast, right? And you always wonder, how do these quarterbacks do it? How do they go through their reads? Because they play this process of elimination game. By reading the safeties and the corners and the alignment of the defense, you can even, there's entire things talking about how the alignment of the defensive line also can dictate coverage. If you get an odd front, that is more likely to be a split field coverage, like quarters cover 2. Or if you get an even front, specifically an over front, you're more likely to get middle field close. Now, it's not crazy likely, so don't go into it every single time you see 4 down and you're going to be like, oh, it's cover 3. It's not super predictive, but it is a slight predictor combined with all your other context clues. I'm not going into that in this video, but you're able to clue based off the alignment of the defense and all of these different players unified together and make a very solid hypothesis. Now, there is a variant of quarters, which is palms coverage. If you haven't watched the video on that, I made a video on that. Against doubles, it's going to look no different from quarters, both pre and post snap, right? We'll play our game just for the sake of it. 1 high safety, 2 high safety, off coverage, off coverage. Our nickel is here, so our read is here. All right. Now, why does palms look exactly the same? Because it is quarters, unless 2 goes out. If 2 does not go out, it plays exactly like quarters, so it's going to look just like quarters, right? So palms is something against doubles that you have to recognize that your opponent is running throughout the course of the game. And that's why it's so dangerous to run if you don't know what's coming, because you could try and throw that quick out route, which is a weakness of quarters, and you can get picked, right? So that's something that you can't really recognize pre-snap against doubles. But let's go ahead, run through it. It looks just like quarters does. Now we go ahead, if we come out in trips, right? If you know from the palms video, the game automatically checks you to stubby, okay? And stubby, you can recognize it really easily because the corner over number 1 is going to be pressed man-to-man, okay? That's your big key when you get into stubby, and this is what everyone talks about. Like, why is my corner pressing when I come out in palms against trips? I don't understand. It's because you're not running palms, you're running stubby, which is a specific check that most teams will use if they major in cover 4. They will use stubby as an automatic check. But you see, it looks very different when this corner is in press technique. Okay, so let's play our game. 1 high safety, 2 high safety, off technique, press technique. Okay, this is in quarters. But we know, based off of our context clues, because we're smart and we know coverages, and we know how coverages work, this is likely going to be stubby. And we can further confirm that by knowing that the press is to the same side as the nickel, right? There is not going to be a situation where we're running stubby and the nickel is over here, away from the press. That won't happen, right? So we know, based off of our context clues, that this is stubby. Who is our read? It is him. Okay? What is his responsibility in stubby? Again, there's no vertical threat for him to worry about, so he will poach over to the middle of the field. As soon as we see him moving this way, combined with the rest of our clues, we're very comfortable in our diagnosis that this is stubby. So let's keep our eyes on him, right? He's going to the middle of the field, boom, we know. This is stubby, right? And then we can go ahead and attack it with concepts that we would call in future plays, right? Or you can audible to them pre-snap if you recognize it. That's the power of being able to recognize coverages. Now, where the chess match kind of starts, first it starts here, where you're able to run split field independent coverages of each other. Right? Cover 6. Malzahn calls this cover 42, right? Which I like, but I'm going to call it cover 6 just for simplicity's sake. What do we got? We have quarters on this side, and we have cover 2 on this side. Now, cover 6 will always be run with the quarters to the nickel side and the cover 2 to the weak side, right? So if we get cover 6, we're reading the cover 2 safety. All right, so we go ahead and we get pre-snap into the game. Let's play our game within the game. How many high safeties? 1, 2. What's the technique of the corners? He's off. He is not pressed, not off. He is cloud. All right? Sitting in that 5-yard window, right? Not off at 8, not pressed up at 3, but sitting at 5. That is cloud technique. Where is our nickel? Here he is. Who is our read? Backside safety. Pre-snap. We think we got cover 2 to the weak side, and we got a quarters look to the strong side. We're going to have our pre-snap diagnosis be, I think this is cover 6. And what would confirm that? Well, while we're reading the backside safety, if he turns and burns to get out here, because he has big deep half responsibility, he's got to turn and get himself out. That'll confirm it. And one other little hint that you can look at is look at the positioning of the safety. Right? Look at his positioning compared to his positioning. The cover 4 safety is stacked right over the top of the apex, whereas the cover 2 safety is aligned with his inside foot on the outside foot of the apex. My drawings aren't calibrated correctly, so you didn't really get a good showing there, but he's more staggered and a bit further out this way compared to the cover 4 safety. And if we just go ahead and hop back just a little bit here to the actual diagram, I went too far. That's okay, right? Let's hop over to the actual diagram, right? What can we see? Stacked, even with maybe a bit of inside leverage here on the cover 4 side, and a bit further outside leverage here on this apex defender from the cover 2 side. And this is hard to recognize when you're playing from this camera angle, right? We're going to go ahead and play it out first real quick. Remember, read him, right? We think it's cover 6, so we think he's going to be bailing out this way. So we're going to go ahead, snap the ball, just look at him, and as soon as he opens his hips, turns and burns, if we ever end up snapping the ball, hard count here, don't jump. There we go. He turns, opens his hips, and he is turning and burning. With the rest of our context clues, we know we have cover 6. But let's go back pre-snap here. It's really, really hard to notice the slight width and depth differentials here between these safeties, especially from this third-person omniscient camera view, right? It's a lot easier when you're actually on the field. I have a bit of a story to tell when we get to the fire zone aspect of this that's related to this, but you recognize once you've been through so many reps on the field what kind of quote-unquote normal positioning is for the defense, and this right here, this isn't normal, right? Because you would expect to see, oh, this is a full field coverage, and this is quarters, he'd be lined up inside here, but he's not, right? Just that little 1 yard difference can be all that matters in you being able to recognize and diagnose the coverage. Cover 6 against trips is going to play out with, on the front side, stubby, right, which we went over, and then cover 2 on the back side, So play our game again real quick. 1, 2. Cloud technique. Press technique. Right? Where is the nickel? He is here. Where is our read? He is here. Based on this, press technique to the nickel side against trips, stacked safety alignment, we got Stubby on the front side. Backside, cloud alignment, a wide safety, right? We don't know 100%, but I'm very, very confident that this is going to be cover 2. What confirms it? If he goes ahead, turns and burns at the snap to get out here and get some depth. All right, snap of the ball, he opens his hips, he's bailing, right? We got cover 6. Now, we're going to go ahead, before we hop over to cover 9, we're going to discuss box, all right? And if you watch the quarters video, you know what this is. This is the automatic check the game puts you in to defend bunch, okay? And the way you're going to be able to recognize this, and the game is even a bit more exaggerated, what you're going to be able to do basically is draw a metaphorical line between all 4 of the defenders who are responsible for the distribution of the receivers out of the bunch, and you'll be able to draw like a little diamond between all 4 of them, okay? And we're going to go ahead and hop in to our game footage. I wish I picked a bunch that was a bit wider out here and not so close to the line in here, but we can still play the same game. Who are the 4 guys that we would expect to be responsible for the route distribution out of the bunch, right? Safety, corner, this linebacker. Connect the dots like we're in 2nd grade. There's our diamond. All right. We got box. Where's our nickel? He's here. Who's our read? He's here. He doesn't have any backside responsibility. In a box check, he would likely be poaching. Right? So as soon as we see the backside safety take his steps towards the middle of the field, we know that we got box. And you see he's turning and burning towards the middle of the field. We got box. Right? And then we can start attacking however we decide that we're going to for that week, or however you like to. Now, cover 9. The exact opposite of cover 6 is going to be cover 2 to the strong side of the defense, cover 4 to the backside. All right? And draw our line right down the middle. What we think here, we got cover 2 on this side. We got quarters on this side. Let's play our game. 1 high, 2 high. Cloud technique, off technique. Whereas the nickel, he is to the cloud corner side. This looks like it's cover 2 on this side. Who is our read? It's him. What'll confirm it? If we think that we have quarters on this side, it'll be the safety pitter-pattering his feet at about 15 yards of depth, right around here, to read the release of number 2. Okay? So, keep our eyes on the backside safety as he pitter-patter his feet, waiting to see what happens. Yeah, he is. You bet he is. Go ahead, you got cover 9. Alright? We're going to show it off against bunch here, and this is a situation where I actually have some personal experience. If you watch the Rice Dynasty, against SMU, I threw a really bad interception late in the game, out of a trip set, because I did not go through my reads, and I did not read that the Mustangs were playing cover 9 against trips. Now, if I was smart and I played my game, right, 1 high safety, 2 high safety, off technique, cloud technique. Where's my nickel? He's to the cloud corner. All right, so we likely have cover 2 to the strong side, quarters to the backside, cover 9. What will we expect? Who's our read first? Our read is here. What will we expect? Him to poach over because he has no vertical responsibility. And this is exactly what happened. I wish I put the clip in to this sequence of videos here, but I did make a short about it. If you don't know, I do make shorts breaking down some individual plays that I think are really, really nice. Definitely go ahead and check those out. They're like 1 minute to 2 minutes long, going a bit more in depth to individual plays. So, what ended up happening is I was running a concept like this. We had a corner, and we ran double post off of it, right? Really, really nice concept. And it was off of a play fake, so the back was released into the flat. So we had a nice read here. Against middle field closed, we would read 1 to 2, corner to flat. And against middle field open, we would read 1 to 2 with a big boy alert on the post against quarters, which pre-snap, I look at this, I see the 2 high safeties, I'm like, quarters. Okay, I'm throwing the second post. And I didn't think anything else of it. But if I went through my reads and I was smart, we know this guy's going to poach over. And I didn't even look at him. I just focused on throwing that second post. Right? I think that's something that all of us have done at some point. And I think that most video game players do. Right? As you see, the safety's getting over here to the middle of the field. Didn't even look. I just threw the ball blindly. But you have to be comfortable reading the play after it starts and be okay with, okay, this isn't right. That's not where the ball needs to go. And I need to have an answer to get the ball somewhere else, or run, start creating, play out of structure, whatever it is, to avoid a negative play. And I didn't do it, right? So I got to follow my own advice here. Cover 2 zone. This is going to be played just like the backside of cover 6, the front side of cover 9, right? Safeties are going to be a little bit wider than they would be in quarters. We get cloud technique from the corners, both sides, all right? In game, we'll hop in. We'll play our game within the game. 1 high, 2 high. Cloud, cloud. Where is our nickel? He is here. Now, one thing here. When you identify the nickel, if I'm seeing this, I see his alignment, I'm actually going to tag him with an alert, a hot alert. Because this is blitz demeanor for a nickel. Look how far inside he is aligned compared to where number 2 is. Right? When you see a nickel that far inside, alarm bells need to be going off in your head as the quarterback and as the tackle. Right? Because the tackle would need to make a call to tell the line, hey, we need to get an extra man in our pass protection slide going out here to account for a possible blitz, right? So this is a situation where I'd actually alert this, right? We know this is cover 2, right? Because this is a structured situation. But in game, I might make sure we get a slide going this way to account for him possibly blitzing. Okay, but who's our read? It's him. Our pre-snap context clues tell us, I think this is cover 2, so what we expect him to do, we expect him to turn and burn to get out here, right? And look how wide these safeties are. In quarters, they were in here, right? But that's a solid like 2-3 yards. They're wider. And that alignment, you just know from recognizing and seeing quarters so much, that's not right, okay? So this is not quarters, this is 100% cover 2, along with the cloud technique corners. Easy diagnosis. Cover 2 man. This is going to be another really easy diagnosis. We have the 2 high safeties once again. They're going to be wide, right? Because they have the deep half responsibility. They got to get out there. And the corners are in press technique, and even nickel is going to be in press technique. Now, one little quirk about the game. Right here, we're in 11 personnel. We get the same exact look, right? 1 high, 2 high. Press, press, nickel. He's in press. He is not, though. Why? Well, because he is a linebacker. Okay? And EA has decided that linebackers don't know how to play press coverage. So he's just going to stand there and play, I guess, trail technique. If we came out in dime, he'd press. But that's just not what EA decided is capable for a linebacker to do. But who's our read? Right? Backside safety. We think this is 2-man. What we expect him to do? We expect him to go out here. Now, one situation, we will get into it because I do have cover 1 a bit later. We could see him drop down here, okay? But cover 1 is going to be played with tighter alignment from the safeties, okay? And why is that? Well, because this safety, if we're getting rotation here, he has to be able to get to the middle of the field, so he's going to line up a bit tighter to the hash. Okay, so based on the width of the alignment of the safeties, along with the press coverage and everything else, I feel comfortable in diagnosing this as cover 2 man, which it is. Now we're going to get into our single high coverages, cover 3. And the very observant of you might say, well, now we're in cover 3. There is no backside safety. Which safety do we read? Well, we read the only one that there is. We read the high safety. But the technique we're expecting, one high safety, off technique, off technique. Our nickel technically is here. Malzahn draws these up with it being base personnel with 3 linebackers on the field. Actually, that's a safety. Yeah, that's a safety. Whoops. But he would be the strong apex. Read this safety. All right. Let's go ahead and get to the game footage. Here we go. Play the game with me. One high safety. Off technique. Off technique. Where's our nickel? This is why we need to know the number of the nickel, because now both the linebackers are in the box and you can't just look at stance alignment. So who's the nickel between these two guys? All right. Well, if we recognize, I believe it's him. I believe it is him. Can we go back to a previous play to confirm that it's him? And why am I guessing him? Because I believe I've recognized that little shoulder brace that he has on. I know that thing pretty well. I wore a shoulder brace my entire career. Can we back this up a little bit? Nope, I'm wrong. Shoulder brace is up here. That's a safety. Boom. I'm wrong. Okay. Let's hop back over to our play here. So, here is our nickel, right? And that's why it's so important to know the numbers, right? In real life when we're scouting, we know the equipment that they wear to make sure that we can see, sometimes it's hard to see the numbers. In this case, like, I can't tell you who the number is of the nickel, but if you could say, oh, nickel has double arm sleeves, all right? Safety's got a shoulder brace. Now we can identify who's the nickel, who's the safety, and that's able to give us some context clues about the alignment of the coverage, right? But we think this is cover 3. So what are we expecting deep safety to do? He's going to sit right here in the post. Go ahead, snap the ball, and we're going to see it. Now, because this is cover 3 match, is going to play out exactly like cover 1 would, with them all carrying the receivers down the field, so it doesn't really look like cover 3, but if we called a real pass concept, we would feel very comfortable in knowing it's cover 3. And especially for those of y'all who play online, this is the stock coverage that everyone runs online for the past 10 years, whatever it's been. So, you're used to this. Now, we're going to get into buzz, right? This is where it's going to get really important that you know who to read post-snap. All right? Because buzz, as you can see here, it's going to present itself with that same, even though I don't like the terminology, umbrella structure of quarters. 2 high safeties, off technique from the corners, all right? What's going to happen, this is buzz strong, right? So here's our strong apex. We would read the weak apex. He's going to get to middle of the field while the strong safety is going to buzz down. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to game footage. So I'm going to read the coverage, all right? As if I'm seeing this for the first time. 1 high, 2 high, off coverage, off coverage. Whereas my nickel, we know that he's double arm sleeve. Here he is. Actually, that's 1 arm sleeve. Goodness, I am failing myself here. I'm failing my scouting right here. Okay. But our read is him. This all tells me this is quarters. This is quarters all the way. Okay? So what do I expect? Well, I expect him to pitter patter. Okay? So we get to the snap, and we're going to see, is he pitter pattering? Nope. And as soon as I see that, he's backing up. He's gone from here to here. Alert, alert, alert. Help. We are not, this is not what we thought it was. Okay? But we can still look at the post-snap context clues, see that the safety's rotating towards the middle of the field, and we can play process of elimination quickly, right? Well, what two other coverages can we possibly get where the safety's rotating towards the middle of the field? There's no pressure coming. Okay, it's either cover 3 or cover 1. And if you've called a good play that has multiple answers to multiple different concepts, then you're able to calmly move over to your next read or say, okay, hey, we've got single high now. They've rotated in the single high post snap. Go to my single high side and we'll play this and we'll beat it no problem. All right, that's the real strength right here of being able to read the coverage and understand what the defense could be throwing at you, both pre and post snap, right? Every time I get a straight quarters look, I'm always just have a reminder in the back of my head, hey, this could be cover 3, right? Just watch the rotation of the safety. See what he does, right? And it's a bit tough because in palms or in quarters against, say it's against trips especially, this is where it can be really, really tough. This is why I like rotating so much between running buzz and quarters against trips, because what happens in quarters? Well, the safety gets to the middle of the field, the backside guy does. The same thing, right? But in game, you do want to analyze the technique a little bit. In cover 3, they kind of just shuffle their way over here, whereas when you run quarters, they sprint, they turn and run all the way. So that's a little technique that you can recognize in game, and that's something that on film, in a real situation, we would point that out, and that would be a clue that we'd give to the quarterback during the week before the game, right? But this is one of the big strengths of being able to rotate your coverage. If you get trips a lot, you can just mix and match between running quarters and then running cover 3 and buzzing the safety over, right? Because it looks nearly identical if you're reading that backside safety. So this is one of the big, big hurdles that you have to be able to recognize as a quarterback. Now, there's also buzz weak. Okay? So let's go ahead, play our game here. And we're going to have a new element here. We have 1 high safety, 2 high safeties. We're off. We're off. Where's our nickel? He's here. Who are we reading? We're reading him. Now, one thing you might recognize is there's a lot of space here, right? If we get a quarter shell, this apex is out here, but he's not. He's in the box. And this is one of the biggest tells of being able to recognize a blitz or some kind of coverage rotation, is the defense is basically going to align themselves out of position to then get to the rotation. So right here, I see all this space right here. I know something's up. I know that something is being presented to me that is not true. So I'm either expecting blitz or hard rotation. Either which one. Right? Now in reality, right, we're going to be reading him. This is buzz weak. So he's going to drop down into the center here. But I don't really know what's coming. It could be pressure. It could be quarters with just a tight alignment from the backers. It could be 3. So we really don't have the ability to make a good diagnosis. We just know something is up. So this is where in real life, right, we would check into something very safe, right? It could be as simple as like checking into, slants, right? Or checking into just run the ball, right? Or something really, really simple. Because this is a coverage you really don't recognize that well. But we read the backside safety. Let's take a look. What does he do? He crashes down. And you can see as we're reading the backside safety, that linebacker is going to cross right in front of our eyes. He's busting his butt to get out here. because he's the apex defender. Right? So just here at the snap, as we're still dropping back here, we haven't even reached the top of our drop yet. We're able to put this piece together and say, okay, this is cover 3. A bit scary, but we were able to get through it. And we survived. All right? Now, you also have cover 3 cloud. This is a coverage that will be presented here, at least. It looks like cover 6 in the diagram, right? Because what do we have? We have 1 high safety, 2 high safeties, off technique. This looks like cloud technique, away from the nickel. Our read is here. We expect him to bail. Okay, hey. This looks like cover 6, right? At least in the diagram. Yeah, and that's why cover 3 cloud is so dangerous, because it can look just like cover 6. But in game, this doesn't look like cover 6, right? He's in press tech. He's in press technique, and the safety, he's stacked over the apex. He's not wider out here like he was when we ran cover 6. So seeing that press technique and the safety not being as wide, no, this ain't cover 6. This is 3 cloud. Okay, this is the only coverage in the game that looks like this. So this is another strength. If you want to run 3 cloud, which I need to run some more of that in my dynasty, run it out of a cover 6 shell. Because it'll look very, very similar. Now, one problem is that they actually run it away from the nickel. Actually, no, that's good. That's good. Ignore what I'm saying. Yeah, run it out of a cover 6 shell. If you want to run 3 cloud, run it out of cover 6. Right? Make that adjustment pre-snap. But we'll take a look. We assume this is 3 cloud, so we're going to see him trying to get out here. May not be turning and bailing, because he only has third responsibility. And we're going to see at the snap, he's not bailing, he's shuffling. Now, I don't think this is good technique, because what happens here? Well, he's left this window open for a throw out here, because he's trailing in the flat, and he's not getting out here fast enough, so I don't love the technique here. Right? There's one way you can beat 3 cloud, especially with really bad technique by that weak safety. But we were able to get through it. Alright? Now, cover 1 robber, as we get into some single high man-to-man coverage, can be played out of both a press alignment and an off alignment in the games. Right? Here, we're going to show the press alignment. So we have press, press, press. In game, he's going to be pressed, right? He's not in the diagram, but in game, he will be pressed. And we are getting weak rotation down as the safety moves up into single high. Here it is, pre-snap. We have our press tech, we have our press tech, we have 1 high safety, 2 high safeties. This is not 2-man. Okay, why? Because the safeties are tight. 2-man, they'd be out here. But they're not. They're tight. Where's our nickel? He's here. Who's our read? He's here. Based on the context clues, what are we expecting him to do? Well, it's some kind of man, but the safeties are tight, so we're not entirely sure. But I'd be willing to bet he's either going here or going here. And knowing the game, there is no strong side cover 1 rotation, so I'm willing to bet that he's going to be settling right down here. Snap the ball. There we go. Cover 1 robber. Now you're going to go ahead and see it. The next play here out of the off technique. And this looks a lot like quarters, right? This is a situation where in real life you could absolutely run this out of a quarter shell. You have 1 high safety, 2 high safety, off coverage on both guys. Here's your nickel. Right, the only problem is in game, I would never run this. Absolutely not. Because you're off with so much space between you and the receiver, and they don't have the proper tools and checks to respond if this guy runs a shallow, which is a massive leverage problem. So there's no way that this corner is going to be able to keep up with a shallow. In real life, he won't chase it. He'll pass it off. And he'll basically zone it out. And he'll basically turn into like a combo coverage. Where it'll be a bit of zone, right? From the guy who got the shallow. In game, doesn't happen. He's just going to try and chase this. So it's a really bad coverage to run in game. But it is still valuable, right? We expect this to be quarters. We expect him to be pitter-pattering his feet, right? At the snap. He's not going to. He's going to rotate down. And so, okay, our diagnosis is wrong of thinking this is quarters. It's either cover 3 or cover 1. Luckily, they play out very similarly if you run match cover 3. But now we have to get to whatever our single high beater is, or our man-to-man beater that's in the play. Or we get to a safe audible that we can read much more effectively. The last cover 1 variant you're going to see is hole, right? Where instead of the safety being the zone defender, it'll be one of the linebackers. It'll be presented from a single high shell as standard. No press technique off the ball, right? So that this would be a great change up based off cover 3 if we actually got the exchange here on the shallow. In which case, I still don't love the play. But right here, one high safety, off technique. Here's your corner, your nickel, there's your read. What are we expecting here? It looks like cover 3. There's some kind of single high, middle field closed structure. So I expect him to fall back. And that's what we're going to get. Now, cover 1 does have one interesting kind of feature to it. And that is Madden and CFB does introduce lock and level to it. Lock and level is the cover 1 check to bunch. And the reason we do this is because if you're trying to run man coverage against bunch and you get something like this, right, where you're running routes that cross each other, you're trying to confuse and force these DBs to run into each other. So what do? Well, you line them up at different levels, right? The nickel will be playing press on the bunch, on the point man. And then the corner and safety will be aligned at slightly different depths to make sure they don't run into each other to cover against this exact situation if they run a crossing distribution. Right? We get into the game. Again, I wish I had a wider bunch here that I called. We don't get press here, but he is aligned a bit tighter to the point man. And look at the alignment here. 5 yards off. My pen's not calibrated, I'm sorry. 6 yards off. Just a little bit deeper. Out of a single high structure, this is lock and level. Alright? Notice it's different from box, right? Because we can't draw our diamond here, right? There is no diamond. This is a... I don't know what you call that. An oval, I guess. There's no check called oval. So, we know this is lock and level. And it plays out just like man-to-man coverage. Because it is man-to-man. Now, this is the pièce de résistance, right? Of being able to read and recognize defenses. Is recognizing blitz before the snap. Cover 0 is, I think, the biggest litmus test when it comes to determining whether or not someone kind of knows ball pre-snap or not. People who are not experienced will see this and they'll be getting blitz and they'll be like, oh, this sucks, this is cheese, this is whatever, right? Me and you, now that you're comfortable with reading defenses, you see this and you say, heck yeah, blitz me. And I'm going to throw a freaking post over your head for a 50-yard touchdown. Right? One of the biggest tells that you're going to get for cover 0, first, is no players aligned over your split receivers within like this 5-yard area. Okay? All of the defenders that are going to be over the top of them are going to be aligned in off coverage, okay? They're all lined up off the ball. They're playing catch technique because they don't have any help over the top, so they have to respect the deep speed, all right? There's no apex defender lined up here. So there's no one underneath. That's your first tell of it being cover zero. Second tell, this is something that JT O'Sullivan talks about. He calls this birds on a post, right? For me and all my American friends who have telephone poles and wires, the birds just sit here, all in the same depth, the same vertical level, in a nice neat line, which is exactly what we're getting here. Birds on a post and no apex defender split out over the slot receivers indicates cover zero. Now right here, because we have a nickel on the field, we do get a cover down player here. All right, that's a technical term for him. But we don't get one here, right? And it's the same kind of look that we had when it was cover three, that rotation. It was the buzz here, and we had a similar look. But I said this would be a blitz alert. This is why. I've called cover zero here. I'm saying blitz alert. Alert. Why? Because there's no one here, and you're all aligned at the same vertical depth, birds on a post. We snap the ball, we say it's cover zero, we've dialed up a nice sexy post route to number 11 here, and as soon as I get that blitz recognition, I'm letting the thing fly. Snap the ball. Snap the ball. Oh, we're doing a hard count here. There we go. Blitz is coming. All right, give me time. Give me time and I'm ripping the post. Easy. Now things get a little bit funkier when it comes to blitzing a nickel defender, right? And this is a situation where you have to kind of combine and also ignore context clues sometimes, because now this is cover zero, but instead of both these linebackers blitzing, it's actually him and him blitzing. What do we have? We have no cover down here, so I'm saying something's up. All right. And we see the nickel, he has the safety stacked right over him, and he's a little bit tighter to the line of scrimmage than he was previously. Let's go back to the last blitz, the play previously. Look at that. He's 5 yards off on the previous play. Now he's like 3.5. And this is the situation that I was talking about when I was playing tackle in college. My coach told me, because I got beat because I didn't recognize a corner blitz in practice, he told me one of the biggest tells for a nickel blitz is a stacked safety over the corner. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? And he says, every time. Every single time. So we go out to practice the next day. I'm taking reps at tackle and team. And I see, I'm a freshman here, 18 years old, and I see a senior corner, right? One of our best players, safety stacked over him. I'm just like, oh, what the heck? I make the adjustment call to say, hey, I think this nickel's blitzing. We're going to bring another player in the slide. Alert the quarterback. I think there's pressure coming. Sure enough, snap the ball. And the nickel blitzes. Just like here. The nickel blitzes. And I pick it up. And I'm like, holy crap, that actually worked. Right? Now, he has been stacked. Multiple different plays and alignments, he has been stacked. Okay? But combine him being stacked with the fact that there's no cover down here, that's when you think, okay, something's weird. Alright? And he's a little bit tighter to the line, which is hard to see here, but when you're a tackle here, and he's only right here compared to you, you can see it, and you say, hey, that's not right. something's off from how you're normally lined up, I'm going to alert to it. Alright? So that's how you can recognize cover zero really, really well. It takes a lot of reps, and it took me a lot of reps to finally get it down in college, so it is hard. But now we're going to get to fire zone, right? Which is going to have some similar principles here. The apex, right, he's really far inside with his alignment. That's why I talked about during the cover 2 rep that he was really far inside, and I'd say I'd probably alert this. That's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to alert it because I think that there's a blitz coming. Another recognition tip for fire zone is that because this is zone coverage on the back end, you're going to have to end up seeing a lot of hard rotation from the defense on both the front side, on the front 7, and in the backfield, right? So this is the blitz we've dialed up here. We're bringing the safety and the linebacker. All right, so what you're going to see from the backside defenders, he has to rotate down to the seam flat. He has to rotate up into cover 3. He has to rotate into the middle to replace the middle defender, and we're going to get this defensive end dropping out to be the other flat defender. So that ripple effect continues. What happens with the rest of the defensive line? Well, to stay gap sound, we have to replace. So we have to scrape over a gap here on the front side. All right. So even though, right, remember this is the nickel, our read is still here. What you're going to see in your peripheries, you're going to see a ton of movement, both in the backfield and in the front 7. So combine all this. The corner is inside leverage. It just doesn't look right. Okay? We get a little bit of a stack here. He doesn't look right. I'm thinking pressure's coming. I'm reading here on the back side. We go ahead, snap the ball, and you can't see my eyes right now, but I'm staring at him, and what do I see? I see all this movement happening in my periphery. In here, it's fire zone. Hard rotation from the secondary, and lineman crossing face on the front 7 is the big tell for fire zone. But that's going to go ahead and do it. That's all of the coverages that I had for today. These are just the base coverages that you would see, and obviously this does not pertain to if your opponent is running coverage shells, which I heavily recommend if you're playing online that you do for this exact reason, because it's harder to diagnose your coverage. But if you enjoyed, please like the video. If you're new, subscribe. If you would like to learn more about football schematics, terminology, scheme, play calling, all that kind of stuff, I got a variety of videos out about coverage, about offensive play calling, diving into playbooks. If you want some more laid-back, entertaining sim-style stuff, I have a Dynasty with the Rice Owls. We just finished Season 1. Go ahead, check it out. Catch yourself up before Season 2. And last thing is to try out the new YouTube Hype feature. They've just put this out recently to give small creators like myself a bigger boost in the community. You press the hype button and it tells YouTube to push this video. So go ahead if you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, hype, all that kind of stuff. And I will catch you all next time. Take care.